Yeah, welcome to this video on round 13 of the World Rapid Championships, and I continue looking at Carlsen's and Karjakin's games. Carlsen's still leading after round 12 by half a point, but he had a setback losing against Ivanchuk, while Karjakin won against Rajabov in round 12. So round 13 here, Carlsen playing black against Grishuk, and Grishuk goes e4, and we got a ruler pass again. And Carlsen now going for the Berlin, and Grishuk actually goes for the main line. So I'll go through this quickly. We get the main position here of this so-called Berlin Wall defense, which basically won Kramnik the World Championship title in 2000 against Kasparov, where Kasparov tried on and on to break down this opening and didn't manage. And yeah, it still stands, this wall. Let's see what Grishuk is trying. Carlsen goes for h6. In this position, black has a huge amount of playable moves. Almost everything has been tried here, but h6 is one recent move which is designed to prevent pieces coming to g5. White ran rook d1, a check. King back to e8. And h3. Knight e7. This is also a typical kind of maneuver. Black wants to regroup this knight, which is not so well placed on f5. A typical idea is to bring this to g6, bishop e7, bishop e6, and maybe knight even to h4 to try to exchange one pair of knights. White went knight e4, knight g6 as mentioned, and now white played knight to d4. Yeah, well, I am not really an expert on this line, so I cannot tell you if this is entirely new or a known line, but it's rather interesting, at least in my eye, because white just leaves the e5 pawn hanging, and I think the issue might be if black doesn't take on e5, which he did. But if he doesn't take, then white maybe is able to play a quick f4 and possibly f5. Okay, e5 is hanging, but let's say f4, bishop e3, and he's quicker in playing f4 than he usually is. So maybe black in a way is yeah, it's not forced maybe, but it's certainly the most principled move to grab this central pawn. So what happens after grabbing the pawn? Grishuk just develops his pieces, and one simple idea is if black now retreats, then white can capture on c7. And one important feature of the position, which funny enough you sometimes forget if you look at this, black cannot castle. He has moved his king already 2 times. I think if black would be able to castle here, it wouldn't be so bad. You might even get away with just bishop e7 and castles, but you cannot, and white will get some initiative on the central files against the king. So you don't want to retreat the knight. This is why he played bishop d6. Yeah, and now very direct play, rook e1, using this, and Carlsen just protected his knight on e5. Grishuk took on e5, and bishop takes. Check. And now this this nice tactical shot. So this is an entirely different approach to the Berlin Wall here. Grishuk really tried for some direct attack against the king, trying to use his development advantage and black's somewhat precarious development. He still doesn't have all these pieces in play, so he opens up the position and tries to get to black's king. We see that this is indeed dangerous. Carlsen now playing c5, attacking the knight. Went to b5 and bishop d7. Quite interesting way to defend this. White retreated. We should look quickly what would happen if white would take here, which looks attractive. This bishop is pinned after all. Then black can go here. Knight takes and bishop takes. And here it is very questionable if this knight will ever get out. I think black is most certainly better in this position. It's not entirely clear maybe, but you don't really want to do this, I guess. So he just dropped this knight back. Rook g8, immediately trying to get counterplay. White took and bishop h3. Took with the check and king with a sidestep. So let's take stock of this position. Yeah, it really opened up to its utmost here. Black's king is a bit in the open here and can be yeah, a target for white's pieces. But on the other hand, black has got this play along the g file and on g2, and it's yeah, it's also a worry for white maybe in the long run that he's got a knight against the bishop. If you just magically would be able to transfer this bishop to, let's say, c6, yeah, then black would have a huge game with the bishop being much better than the knight. But of course this is a very concrete position and you need to calculate this correctly. But I don't think that black is so bad here, but it's not easy to play. Rook e2. He attacked the rook and it went to e3, also covering those squares so that the bishop cannot go there. Yeah, and here in this position I think black made a mistake. He retreated the bishop, which is certainly very understandable. He wants to bring this piece to c6, as I mentioned, but I think this has just a tactical drawback. He could have played rook g6, for instance, attacking the pawn, and this seems to be fine for black. White has no good way to protect this pawn. Let's say he would play bishop d5, then black can simply attack the bishop, the knight, and yeah, this is just nothing. The pawn cannot easily be protected. He can play something like rook f1, but then black might try rook d8 with the idea of entering on d2, and I think black has enough counterplay. His move, as I mentioned, was bishop d7 here, which is very understandable, but it has a slight problem. We'll see this. What I think is amazing is that Karjakin really presses on very nicely in this game, despite being down on the clock here, as usual. I mean, he's used to this, but now 1 minute against 5 minutes, and he still played all the most aggressive and cool moves like this one. He grabbed on c7, attacking the rook, but allowing this check here. But it doesn't seem to be a problem for white. One thing is, black played this move now, but yeah, well, else? Okay, he needs to go there. Oops, I had a small hallucination there. He needs to go there, of course. And then rook e7. And this is the real point. I think this is what maybe Carlsen overlooked when he played bishop d7, that white has this huge threat now of knight e6, and black simply has no way to prevent this. The only thing he can do is yeah, sack the exchange, just to show what would happen if black would play some move like this. White has this f8 move coming up, and of course black has this threat, so you first need to cover this, and then basically next move white will promote. Yeah, so not much choice. He needed to exchange, to give the exchange here, and white is just an exchange up now, rook for bishop, but he loses the f-pawn. In the process, a pair of rooks got exchanged though. And yeah, what is this endgame? Yeah, is this winning for white? Yeah, I think it is. And Grishuk does a nice job in showing how to win this. I think one problem is that this pawn isn't worth much. White can always attack it, for instance, in this way, and also the rook can attack the queen side, so it combines play against the queen side and the h-pawn, and most likely black will lose one pawn, and this will be the h-pawn. We see what happens. Yeah, and now you see that it's difficult for black to keep this pawn. He actually gives it up straight away. If he would have tried to protect it, let's say here, then white can further advance. Stuff like this. It's simply not possible to keep this pawn in the long run. He therefore immediately gave it up and tried to hold this endgame. We see that white can enter with the king, but still, if you look at this position, it's not so apparent how white should win actually, because the king cannot enter. But white has a very nice winning maneuver. There's maybe more than one winning maneuver, but it's quite a nice one that we can observe here. So what he's doing is he plays this b3 move and then puts his rook on b2. Very nice. The idea is to play b4 and open up the queen side. We see what kinds of position is occurring here. b4. Yeah, so as white is threatening both these moves, black needs to exchange, and now the point is to capture with the rook. This is very important. Now white is threatening to play c4 to c5, winning the b6 weakness, and if black moves his king to get out of the b file, we see that is happening now. White can advance his king and approach the b6 pawn, and he will win this pawn. Yeah, very nice. And here Magnus resigned. c4 is protected, and you will lose the b6 pawn with a winning endgame. It's a winning endgame for a while, but it's really a trivial win now. So 2 losses in a row for Carlsen. After completely dominating the field, he just lost 2 games. This very sharp battle against Ivanchuk, and then this kind of game, I think, where he only made one real mistake with this bishop d7 move, but it really proved to be enough to lose the game. So in the meantime, what was Karjakin doing? The weird thing is, with a win, he actually would take the lead in the tournament. So let's see what he came up with. He played white against Kashgarliev, one of the lower rated players in the tournament, and let's see what happens. Kashgarliev plays this neo Philidor, reaching a Philidor's defense by transposition with d6, knight f6, e5 played, and Karjakin just plays the normal main line here, a4, which is a good move to prevent black's queenside expansion, what he would like to do. So black c6, yeah, retreating the bishop so that black cannot gain tempos on it with knight to b6, for instance. a5, h3. So I think this is all in all a very understandable kind of game. I think it's all very normal. White is centralizing his pieces, and black keeps his position together. He's got this slight weakness on d6, but he's got some counterplay on e4. maybe also with this move. And all in all, white is slightly better, but nothing dramatic happening. Knight e5, which is a good move to sort of stop this bishop. Yeah, we see that black is close to continuing development here, to completing development here. He has got both rooks centralized, and now this nice bishop dropping back here. So very harmonious position that black set up here. The bishops are not in the way. He's got both his rooks centralized. These knights are also controlling important squares. So it's I think a very decent position that Kashgarliev here got out of the opening. He cannot do so much, but this position is very hard to break down. So Karjakin tries with improving his pieces, but it didn't amount to much. Bishop e6 now. After this knight retreated from d4, this move is possible. So white exchange, and now an important move he took with the f-pawn. Rook takes e6 maybe was possible, but this is from structure point of view a move you want to make, because we see what happening. White retreats his knight, and then d5. This is black's idea to have this healthy pawns now. If you look at this bishop, you want your pawns on the light squares. So black is very much okay here. Just some exchanges.
Check.
Yeah, and not much happening here, really. It's a very equal position.
Check.
Yeah,
Check.
really not much going on. White plays f4, which is slightly risky because of this weakness here. But of course, Karjakin wanted to try something in this game to catch up and maybe overtake Carlsen. So understandable, but it's not so threatening to black. Yeah, white has made some progress here with his knights, but still this is a weakness. Yeah, and this is a very important point. Here black played king to h7. He had alternatives though. He could have played knight to f7, which is quite a strong move. The point is, if white takes on f7, queen d4 even is winning for black, because he's got this huge check coming up. So white cannot take there. If white goes knight d7, then black can also take, and you've got still this check coming up.
Check.
So if white grabs here, he cannot take. I mean, he can, but it's just a draw.
Check.
And the draw is hard to avoid in this position, as this is such a strong threat. So what else is there? White could take here.
Check.
This kind of stuff. But here black certainly is not worse. I think I would even prefer black slightly, but not much going on. And in fact, after this knight f7, oops, this is what he played. It was a mistake. After this, white needs to play this move here. He can exchange, and now a strong move, queen to f5, threatening to take on c2 and forcing this perpetual against the king. So if white would capture here,
Check.
black has the perpetual and just a draw. So this knight f7 move simply would have drawn the game. He played king h7 though, and now white just grabbed a5. It's not quite sure why he didn't play knight f7. It wasn't so difficult to see really. Now black is just a pawn down, and there's not much compensation. White retreats his queen and covers his problems on the second rank, and yeah, white just covers the slight weakness. And now tries to pressurize this pawn.
check, check,
Yeah, white has won another pawn
check,
and now is able to exchange queens, so black resigned. Yeah, this was quite surprising. I think that black didn't play knight f7. So it's not so difficult to find actually, simply because the amount of alternatives that white has after this move is quite limited. Especially if you look at king h7, queen a5, you're just a pawn down. So not quite sure why it didn't win knight f7. Yeah, so Karjakin won his game, and yeah, therefore took the lead. So we got two losses by Magnus against Ivanchuk and Grishuk, and in the meantime Karjakin won two times. So Karjakin actually took the lead. So round 14, we saw. I need to get the games here. We saw Carlsen playing Rajabov and Karjakin playing Swidler. Carlsen with white. So let's see what happens in this game. He opens e4 and Carlsen and Rajabov plays the Sicilian. Yeah, and here quite a surprise by Rajabov. The nowadays common move is d6, the so-called Kalashnikov variation. Nobody really knows why it is called the Kalashnikov. It's actually just like the Sveshnikov, an invention of Evgeny Sveshnikov. So maybe it should have been called like the Neo Sveshnikov or whatever. Okay, but d6 wasn't played. Rajabov had played this before, but in this game he went a6, the old line,
check,
which allows this check, and then queen e7. This is, I think, quite a rare line. I think queen f6 is also a possibility, but I don't know it for sure. Um, Carlsen played it simple. He
check,
just exchanged and played knight c3, just hoping to exploit his bishop pair in an endgame. But black is very quick here. He can go d5 and use his development advantage. If white would take now, then knight b4 is quite awkward to meet. How would you protect this pawn? It's only moves that you really don't want to play. You don't want to play a move like this here, after which black has multiple options. He can just take with a good position. He could play also this move. So all in all, white cannot really take. So he played bishop to d2. Bishop e6, castles long and castles long. f3. So as compensation for the bishop pair, black has a nice development and quite an harmonious setup. He's also got an extra center pawn. So this position should be somewhere between very slightly better for white and equal. And we see that Magnus is trying here to get something with his bishop pair, but it's very difficult.
check,
He exchanged some stuff and now tries to exchange the rooks here. had at least one pair. Maybe exchanging two would have been a bit much also. You still need to have some pieces to win the game actually. So black just keeps the position. I mean, black is cannot do much in this game. He can just sit and wait and see what white is coming up. But black is very solid, so it's not the kind of position where you can win games with as black, but you can try to hold the position. And we see that it's difficult for white to make progress. He just sits and wait. One problem is that this kind of formation here is quite good in blocking those pawns, so white cannot easily get a passed pawn on the queen side or something. He can, I mean, it's even difficult to advance one pawn here. It's all blocked. And this is really the issue. White is sort of playing without his majority. Yeah, black has this nice knight on e5. It's nicely covered by the pawn and the rook. And yeah, what should white try? He tries to open the position more. Maybe this move, but knight f3 was a nice one, attacking the bishop. So white doesn't have much choice. He needs to exchange. And now black has quite a good blocking setup. This these two pieces just control the central squares, and it's hard to see how white should make progress. He can try with c3 b4 possibility. He does that now, but black just sits and wait. Yeah, it's not much you can do. I think white can try b4. I think he did this a couple of moves later. I'm not quite sure. Yeah, it's hard to even try for b4 as the a pawn is potentially hanging. Yeah, this is another possibility to open it up. But yeah, it's only 3 pawns left, so this is not much. And still black has this quite solid configuration here in the center. Yeah, this is just quite strong. White cannot do much. Yeah, we see that white is mostly shuffling around a bit to see if black gives some ground at some point, but he simply didn't. Yeah, now f4. Completely trying to liquidate everything there is. Oh, this is nice. Nice shot. The idea is king takes b3, knight d4. Let's see what happened. White took it, took f4, and king back, and still we have this tactical idea, but also this is hanging. So we got to this position. I wasn't aware actually that this was happening. I only looked before this game at about up to move 50 or something. I checked this before. So okay, they drew. I was actually fearing that white tried on and on to do something here. Of course, it's completely dead. You cannot win with two bishops against a single bishop. Alright, so Rajabov put a good defense here and managed to get a draw. It was never more than that, playing for a draw, but he accomplished his goal. In the meantime, Karjakin played Svidler with black, and yeah, also a game that I won't look into with much detail because it was a pretty solid affair up to a
check,
certain point where Svidler just made a somewhat strange decision, I think. Yeah, so we got a Queen's Indian, pretty standard line, I think, which Karjakin has played a number of times before, and it's all pretty normal. White tries to play on the queen side, possibly with a5, and black goes for a counterattack here in the center. White captured, which I'm not sure of really if this is a good move, but okay. So, but it's not much happening here. The only thing that is a bit uncommon in this position is that white has played this a4 move, so that b3 is a weakness. It doesn't seem like much at the moment, but you will see in the game that it really, yeah, it really is a factor. White now bishop f4 and queen e8, which is a nice move, removing the queen out of the d file and possibly preparing, yeah, what is happening in the game. We see it. We see it. This f6, queen f7. It's quite nice. So maybe you can even go e5 at some point. White now centralized his rook. Black exchanged here and played rook d8. So this is actually a kind of critical position, and it looks pretty harmless at first, but there is something going on in this position, which is this bishop being pinned. Yeah, so white can never, let's say, take here
check,
because this rook is hanging on d1, and this pin is a bit tricky. Um, Svidler now played rook to c1, possibly preparing at one point a5 or maybe b4 if possible. Now Karjakin took here, and now Svidler really yeah, played a surprising move. I'm not quite sure why. He played rook takes f3. He could have played simply rook takes c5, bishop takes c5, not rook. Bishop takes c5 and bishop f3. Black then most likely will play a5, fixing this weakness. And in this position, black might claim that he is microscopically better because of this bishop. It's a bit better than this bishop. But okay, let's be honest here. This should be a draw. White should really draw this. And of course, it's not much fun and so on, and you can never win. But it's most likely a draw. In the game, he took here with the rook, and then black had this funny shot, knight takes a4, and I cannot believe he overlooked this. Um, quite difficult to say why he allowed this instead of this other line. Maybe he really blundered this. Not sure. So white took here. Not much choice.
check,
Rook takes and rook takes, and yeah, we've got a position where black is just a pawn up, but it's not at all easy to convert. Played a5 now, which is the second move, which I'm not so sure of. Black just took it. You have alternatives here. One is actually rook to d3, which looks a bit ugly at first sight, but it has some points. If black would take a4, you
check,
can give this check here and bishop c6, which is quite nice. The idea is to go here and attack e6. If black now tries to put up a pin, you can actually play rook d7. And what is black's queen doing now? Stuff like this even gets quite dangerous for black. Hard to defend this and this. So there's some counterplay. So rook takes a4 is not possible, most likely, or it's not a good move really. If black in this line would capture, you can recapture and then try to get counterplay against the e6 pawn. So something like d4, queen c6, and d5. And I think white still has pretty decent chances to draw this game. I'm not quite sure about the game continuation, as quite quickly Karjakin, I think, makes progress. So he went a5, immediately jettisoned this pawn to get some counterplay with this. But I think black defended quite nicely here. Yeah, it's not apparent what what white should do here. Played queen c4, attacking the pawn, but black can cover it this way. So white now rook takes e6. In this position he actually still had a chance with rook a6, and I'm not quite sure what black would play now. I'm just threatening to take on a4 with the rook possibly, and also threatening rook a7. If black takes now and plays stuff like this,
check,
I don't think black can win this, really. This seems a much tougher defense, but okay, it's a rapid game. He immediately took there, and now rook d1, and this is really a difference, because now this is pinned. And what should white do now? He played this check, but now doesn't have this bishop on c4 like in the line before, where the bishop really helped to stop the pawn along this diagonal. Now he's got a clumsy rook on c4, and black immediately advances. I'm not 100% sure, but I think this might be lost now. Yeah, black activating his king.
check,
Yeah, and in this position Svidler resigned, as black is about to cage in his rook, and then it gets rather embarrassing if you cannot even move this rook. So I think Svidler missed the two chances here to equalize the game. He really didn't have any possibilities um, to play for an advantage at some point here. Somehow this opening didn't have much bite, but he could have played this bishop takes c5 here to equalize, or yeah, I think it's equal. Bishop takes e5 here, and he had some chances to defend better, but yeah, he didn't find it with little time. So in round 14, Carlsen with a draw against Rajabov, so he couldn't get any ground, and yeah, Karjakin even winning again against Svidler, with a bit of help from Svidler, admittedly. So we had before the last round, we had Karjakin leading by 1 point, and Carlsen really needed a win in the last round, and we'll see in the next video what happened in this final round. So talk to you in this video.